Hi everyone, and welcome to Chapter 5, Word Stress in Nouns, Verbs, and Numbers. Now, those of you that were in the 65 class earlier this semester, you recognize this chapter. So we're going to go into greater detail about word stress. When we talk about stress, not the stress of work and school and taking care of the kids and paying bills. No, not that kind of stress. Word stress, and in particular, syllable stress. In English, we use stress, which is the higher intonation, the higher pronunciation and intonation, inflection of a syllable in a word, and word stress oftentimes will dictate the meaning of a word. You could have a word in English written the same exact way, but have different syllable stress, and the meaning of that word would be different. Let me give you an example. Record and record. Record, like a record that you play, music record, or a record of your files. That's a noun. And then record. Record. Notice how the stress is on the second syllable. Same spelling, but record is a verb. It's what I'm doing right now, recording this video for you. So word stress is very, very important with nouns, with verbs, and with numbers. And I know you've had this experience before with the numbers 13 and 30, or 14 and 40, 50 and 15. Sometimes it's hard to tell which number is which. And even for native speakers, sometimes we get confused between the two. But word stress is the key. In this chapter, you will learn common stress patterns in words. And we looked at these in 65. With two-syllable words, right? Words with more than one syllable. With two-syllable nouns, we looked at some patterns. With two-syllable, verbs, we looked at some patterns. And with numbers, we saw some patterns as well. So we're going to review those patterns again, just as a refresher, right? And then we're going to look at in greater detail for how to make syllables sound stressed in English. How do we do that? How do we make a syllable sound stress? We'll give you some tips for that. We're also going to look at how to stress different types of verbs and nouns that we didn't look at in 65. So we're going to expand upon the rules that we've already discussed in the previous class. And we're going to look at abbreviations as well. How do we stress abbreviations and what are called acronyms, like USA or EU? There's some rules with that too. So just continuing what we had discussed in the 65 class. So those are our objectives. And with words that have two or more syllables in English, one syllable will sound extra long and extra clear. We call that stress, primary stress. And stress is important, making yourself understood. If you put the stress in the wrong syllable, it could change the meaning of the word. Or it could make it very difficult for someone to understand. I know you've had the experience where you're talking with someone and you say a word and they say, wait, say that again? That word, repeat that one more time. And you repeat it and they say, what? Wait, I don't understand you. Can you say it one more time? And you repeat it again and then they say, oh, you mean, and then they repeat the word back to you, but they repeat it with different word stress. They say the same word, but they put the stress in a different syllable. And you're like, I thought that's what I said. It happens all the time. Very common. And I think in terms of being understood when we're speaking, it's recognizing correct word stress. And this takes practice and practice and practice, but if you can identify these rules, they'll help you more consciously remember and recognize where we put stress in English, and especially with regard to nouns, verbs, and numbers. So we're going to do a warm-up exercise together to get loose. We're doing exercise 1 together. We're on page 39. For exercise 1, listen to these sets of words here. CD1, track 45. And I want you to indicate, do you hear the word stress on the first syllable or on the second syllable? First syllable, second syllable. First syllable, second syllable. For these, this has 3 syllables, so this would be second syllable or third syllable. All right, so listen closely, and wherever you hear the word stress, whichever syllable you hear is the strongest, that'll help you understand which word is being said. Let's do this together. CD1, track 45. In bold, you see where the syllable stress is. You're listening for the word that has that stress. Let's give it a listen.
Chapter 5. Exercise 1A. Page 39.
1. IV.
2. Decade.
3. Desert.
4. 1%.
5. 2 tours.
6. Corrector.
7. Homesick.
8. Written.
9. His story.
10. 50.
And 10's a good example of numbers, right? And those are very tricky, 50 or 15. All right, if you need to go back, you can go back in the video to hear those one more time, or press pause and go ahead and play those again. But I'm going to go ahead and go through the correct answers with you. Number 2, decade or decade? Decade, decade. Stress was on the de in decade. Number 2 is decade. Excuse me, number 3, desert or dessert? Desert or dessert? Desert for number 3. Number 4, one person or 1%? 1% for number 4. It's on the third syllable. 1%. That vowel sounds longer and extra clear. The vowel sound in that syllable sounds longer, higher in intonation, and extra clear, more clearly pronounced. Number 5, character or corrector? Number 6 was corrector. Oh, forgive me, I skipped number 5. I'm sorry. Number 6, corrector. And number 5, 2 tours. 2 tours. You have double stress because you have 2. This is a compound word. Stress is on both syllables. It's a tricky one. We'll look at that one in greater detail in this chapter. Number 7, homesick. Homesick or homesick? Homesick for number 7. Number 8, written. Written or retain? Written for number 8. Number 9 was really tricky. 9 and 10 were tough. history or his story? History, his story. Number 9 was his story. And then number 10, the classic example of numbers, 50 or 15. The correct answer for number 10 was 50. So this was a great exercise of what? Word stress. How to make a syllable sound stress is what we're going to look at in this chapter. And really recognizing that stress is an important part of making you better understood. A lot of you, that's your primary motivation, is improving your ability to be understood. It's embarrassing when you mispronounce something. It's embarrassing when someone asks you to continue to repeat yourself. So hopefully in this chapter you'll have a better understanding of those common stress patterns in English where we have more than one syllable, and then you'll improve your ability on how to stress words in English, how to stress syllables in particular in English. And as we talked about here at the bottom of the page, if you stress the wrong syllable, it can totally change the meaning of the word. So we're going to try to correct this and make sure that this doesn't happen to you. So let's go ahead and click next in the bottom right hand corner. Let's get to work in chapter 5, how to stress words such as nouns, verbs, and numbers. Let's get to work.